Welcome back to Valuable Rare Coins, where every coin could be a hidden treasure. First, we're revealing coins that might be worth a fortune right under your nose. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our hunt for rare and valuable finds. Let's dive in. We're talking about the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Washington Quarter. This coin was struck to honor the 200th anniversary of the United States independence, and it holds a unique place in both American numismatics and history. You may have seen this coin in your pocket change, but there's more to this quarter than meets the eye. As most of us know, 1976 marked the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. To mark this occasion, the U.S. Mint issued a series of coins with special bicentennial designs, including the Washington Quarter. But this wasn't just any regular coin. This version of the quarter featured a redesigned reverse side that made it stand out from the others. So, what makes this coin so unique, and why does it hold so much value for collectors? First, let's take a closer look at the design. The obverse side of the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Washington Quarter remains unchanged, featuring the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. This image has been the standard on the quarter since 1932, and it symbolizes Washington's leadership in the founding of the United States. The word liberty arches above his portrait, while the year 1776 to 1976 is prominently displayed to mark the bicentennial anniversary. You'll also find the inscription, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has appeared on U.S. coins for many years, reflecting the nation's core values. Now, let's turn to the reverse side of the coin, where the true bicentennial design shines. For the first time in U.S. history, the reverse features a unique design by artist Jack Ahr, which was a departure from the traditional eagle. Instead of the eagle, you'll see a colonial drummer, representing the American Revolution, surrounded by 13 stars. These stars symbolize the 13 original colonies that declared independence from Great Britain. The drum in the design is a nod to the military role of the Continental Army and the courage and perseverance of the colonists. The design is a powerful reminder of the sacrifices made during the Revolutionary War and the birth of the United States. But this special quarter wasn't just a celebratory gesture. It became an iconic part of the bicentennial celebrations and is still remembered today. With millions of these quarters minted in 1975 and 1976, they were widely circulated, meaning most of them were used in everyday transactions and have since become quite common. However, the rarity and value of a Washington bicentennial quarter come from factors such as its condition, any minting errors, and the specific variety of the coin. Now, if you're wondering about the value of the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Washington Quarter, it's important to understand that most of these coins are still worth their face value of 25 cents in circulation. But don't be too quick to dismiss them. As with most coins, their value increases depending on their condition. For example, coins that have been preserved in near-perfect or uncirculated condition are far more valuable to collectors than those that have been worn down or damaged. In fact, if you happen to come across a quarter in uncirculated condition, it could fetch a higher price. However, the real treasures in the world of coin collecting are the rarer varieties and those with minting errors. For the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Quarter, there are a few key varieties that collectors are actively searching for. For example, coins that were struck with off-center designs or errors in the strike can be worth much more than a standard example. These errors are fascinating to collectors because they make each coin unique, and finding one is a rare and exciting experience for anyone in the hobby. One of the most sought-after varieties of the bicentennial quarter is the proof coin, which was struck for collectors and has a special mirror-like finish. Proof coins were made in smaller quantities and often have higher demand because they were intended to be kept in pristine condition, meaning they're more likely to be found in uncirculated state. These coins can carry a premium, and depending on their condition, some of these proof quarters have been known to fetch hundreds of dollars. And then, of course, there are the errors. Minting errors, such as double strikes or improperly struck coins, are extremely valuable in the world of numismatics. For instance, a bicentennial quarter with a double strike or a coin that has a misaligned die can skyrocket in value. These rare errors are highly prized by collectors and often end up fetching much higher prices than regular quarters. So, what is the true worth of a 1976 bicentennial Washington quarter? While most coins may only fetch a few dollars depending on their condition, the really valuable coins are those that have an exceptional pedigree either through rarity, condition, or errors. In fact, if you happen to have an unblemished, mint condition 1776 to 1976 bicentennial Washington quarter, or even better, a coin with a significant minting error or unique variety, you could be sitting on a small fortune. When it comes to the most valuable specimens of this coin, certain ones have sold for astounding amounts at auctions and private sales. For example, some of the rarer, error-free versions of this coin have been known to fetch prices up to $154,000. That's right, $154,000 for a single quarter. So, if you've got a few 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarters lying around, it might be worth taking a closer look. Check for any unusual features, such as errors in the design, or see if you have one in pristine, uncirculated condition. Even though these coins were mass-produced, some lucky finders have struck it rich by stumbling upon the right variety at the right time. As always, remember that coin collecting is all about knowledge and patience. Whether you're just starting out or you've been collecting for years, it's essential to educate yourself about the different coins, varieties, and conditions that can increase their value. If you're new to coin collecting, don't be afraid to seek out advice from professionals or visit coin shops and auctions to learn more about the rarest and most valuable coins. Second rare coin, we're going to explore the Washington $quarter coin from 1971, a piece of American history that could be worth much more than you might think. While many of these coins are still in circulation today, some have gained significant value over the years, and you might be surprised at just how much a 1971 Washington quarter can be worth. So, let's dive in. Let's begin with the basics of this iconic coin. The Washington quarter has been in circulation in various forms since 1932, and it's one of the most recognized coins in the United States. On the obverse side, you'll find the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, designed by John Flanagan. Washington's likeness has been featured on this coin for decades, symbolizing leadership, strength, and the founding ideals of the country. The reverse side of the 1971 Washington quarter continues the traditional design, showcasing an eagle perched on a branch, symbolizing the nation's strength and resilience. The words e pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, appear around the eagle, reinforcing the idea of unity within diversity. The mint year of 1971, along with the words United States of America and $quarter, complete the design, making it a visually stunning and historically significant coin. Now, while the 1971 Washington quarter looks like your standard piece of currency, there's more to it than just its design. Over time, certain factors have made this coin stand out in the world of numismatics. Coins minted in 1971 were produced during a particularly interesting time in U.S. history. The country was still recovering from the tumultuous 1960s, and the Vietnam War was ongoing. Additionally, the year 1971 marked a period of transition in American currency, with the U.S. officially abandoning the gold standard in 1971 under President Richard Nixon. This moment in history makes the 1971 quarter a unique and historically rich artifact, but what really sets the 1971 Washington quarter apart for collectors is its rarity and potential for value. The majority of these quarters were mass-produced, meaning they were widely circulated and used in daily transactions, leading to the wear and tear we see in most coins from this era. As a result, finding a 1971 Washington quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition is rare, and that rarity is exactly what collectors are looking for. Uncirculated coins, free from any damage or discoloration, are much more valuable than their well-worn counterparts. The condition of the coin is one of the most important factors in determining its value. A well-preserved, uncirculated 1971 Washington quarter can command a significant premium over its face value. Coins that are in gem mint state, meaning they are free from any visible defects and have a sharp, clear strike, are especially prized by collectors. These coins often fetch much higher prices, making them a sought-after commodity in the numismatic community, but there's more to it than just being in pristine condition. The 1971 Washington quarter, like many other coins, can have variations in its design due to minting errors. These errors occur when the coin is struck incorrectly during the manufacturing process, resulting in a unique flaw that sets the coin apart. Error coins are incredibly popular among collectors because they are one-of-a-kind pieces of history. For example, a 1971 Washington quarter with a double die, where part of the design appears twice, or a coin with a misaligned die, could be worth significantly more than a standard quarter. So, how much is a 1971 Washington quarter actually worth? Well, the value can vary greatly depending on several factors, including the condition of the coin, its rarity, and any minting errors it might have. As mentioned earlier, most of these coins are still in circulation today, meaning their value is generally only slightly above face value. However, if you happen to have a gem-quality, uncirculated 1971 Washington quarter or one with an error, you could be looking at a much higher priced. A 1971 Washington quarter in excellent condition could easily fetch hundreds of dollars, especially if it has been well preserved and kept in a protective holder. In fact, when you start looking at the rarest varieties and error coins, the value can skyrocket. Some collectors have been known to pay tens of thousands of dollars for these elusive pieces. It's not just about the coin itself, it's about the story behind it, the history it represents, and the thrill of finding something rare and valuable. So, here's the big reveal. If you have a 1971 Washington quarter in near-perfect, uncirculated condition or a rare error variety, it could be worth up to $100,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $100,000 for a single quarter. Imagine stumbling upon one of these coins in your collection or finding it at a yard sale. It's enough to make any coin collector's heart race. Of course, to achieve that kind of value, your coin must meet certain criteria, such as being in near-perfect condition or featuring a notable minting error. But even if your 1971 Washington quarter doesn't reach that level of value, don't despair. Coins from this era still hold historical significance, and they can be a great addition to any collection. So, the next time you're sorting through your spare change or looking through a box of old coins, take a second look at any 1971 Washington quarters you might have. You never know, one of these coins might just be the key to unlocking a treasure worth thousands of dollars. And if you're really serious about coin collecting, consider visiting a coin shop or an auction house to explore rare and high-quality pieces. You could find that one gem that turns your collection into a small fortune. Third expensive coin, I'm talking about the 1973 Washington quarter. Now, you may be familiar with the Washington quarter itself, one of the most iconic coins in U.S. currency. Since 1932, this quarter has featured the profile of George Washington, the first president of the United States, designed by John Flanagan. It's a coin that represents American history, pride, and the enduring legacy of Washington's leadership. But today, we're going to talk about the 1973 version and what makes this particular quarter stand out in the world of coin collecting. At first glance, a 1973 Washington quarter might look like just another piece of 25-cent currency. However, as many coin collectors know, certain coins from specific years and mintages can hold incredible value, often due to a combination of rarity, historical significance, and the coin's condition. Let's break down what makes the 1973 Washington quarter so valuable. The design of the 1973 quarter, like most other Washington quarters, features the portrait of George Washington on the obverse, surrounded by the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." The reverse side displays the famous American eagle, wings spread wide as it perches on an olive branch, symbolizing peace and strength. The year 1973 is proudly stamped below the eagle, and the words United States of America and quarter dollar surround the coin's edges. But beyond this familiar imagery, there are a few reasons why this coin can be worth a small fortune. First, let's talk about the historical context. The early 1970s were a time of significant change in the United States, both politically and economically. The country was still adjusting to the aftermath of the Vietnam War, dealing with rising inflation and grappling with a number of other challenges that defined this era. However, in the world of coins, these years also marked the beginning of a transition as the U.S. was moving away from the silver-backed currency system. By 1971, the U.S. had completely abandoned the gold standard, and coins like the 1973 Washington quarter were part of a broader shift in how American currency was produced, despite being minted in large numbers. Finding a high-quality 1973 Washington quarter is actually quite rare. Most of these coins were circulated heavily, leading to wear and tear over the years. As a result, many of the coins you find in circulation today may have become worn down, discolored, or damaged over time. But here's the thing, collectors are constantly on the lookout for coins that have been kept in excellent condition. An uncirculated, gem-quality 1973 Washington quarter can fetch a much higher price than its face value. When coins like these are stored properly and kept in pristine condition, their value can skyrocket. But it's not just about the quality of the coin itself. There are other factors that play into how much a coin can be worth. If you're wondering what sets certain 1973 Washington quarters apart from the rest, the answer lies in some unique characteristics that could make them even more valuable. Certain coins from this year may feature minting errors, things like double strikes, die cracks, or other unusual imperfections that can make them stand out. Collectors who specialize in error coins are always on the lookout for these kinds of variations, as they are much rarer and more valuable than standard coins. If you happen to find a 1973 Washington quarter with a minting error, you could be sitting on a hidden treasure. Additionally, there's another factor that drives the value of these quarters: rarity. While many of the 1973 quarters were mass-produced, some of them were minted in smaller quantities or experienced lower-than-average survival rates due to heavy circulation. In fact, coins that are produced in lower quantities often have a higher demand, which leads to higher values. The combination of a smaller mintage and the passage of time can create the perfect storm for certain coins to appreciate in value, and that's where the real opportunity lies for collectors. Now, let's talk numbers. A standard 1973 Washington quarter that has been used in circulation may only be worth slightly more than its face value of 25 cents, especially if it has visible wear. But when you find a gem-quality, uncirculated coin, especially one with a rare minting error or exceptional features, the price can jump exponentially. For collectors looking for those rare pieces to add to their collections, a well-preserved 1973 Washington quarter can command impressive amounts of money at auctions and through private sales. And now for the big reveal: if you happen to have a high-grade, uncirculated 1973 Washington quarter, or even one with a rare minting error, it could be worth up to $90,000. Yes, that's right, $90,000 for a single quarter. That's enough to make any collector's heart race with excitement. Imagine finding one of these quarters tucked away in your old coin jar or hidden in a box of family heirlooms. It's a thrilling prospect for anyone who enjoys the hunt for rare coins. Next time you're going through your change or sorting through your coin collection, take a second look at any 1973 Washington quarters you might have. You could be sitting on a valuable piece of American history that's worth much more than you ever thought possible. Especially, we're exploring a coin that might be sitting in your collection right now, or perhaps even in your change, the 1981 D Washington quarter. You might think of it as just another modern coin, but trust me, this one has a lot more to offer than meets the eye. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since it was first introduced in 1932. Featuring the iconic portrait of George Washington, It has undergone various design changes over the decades. But the 1981 D. Washington quarter, minted in Denver, is one that stands out among collectors for several reasons. Let's dive into why this seemingly ordinary quarter could be worth much more than its face value. To understand why the 1981 D. Washington quarter is special, we need to take a quick look at its history and the context of the time. The early 1980s were a time of economic recovery in the United States. The country had just emerged from the stagflation of the 1970s, and by 1981, President Ronald Reagan was in office, ushering in a new era of economic policies. Coinage from this period, particularly the Washington quarter, reflects this time of transition, and it holds a unique place in U.S. currency history. The design of the 1981 D. Washington quarter is fairly consistent with the classic design that has appeared on quarters since 1932. On the obverse side, we see the familiar profile of George Washington, the first president of the United States, facing left. Above his portrait, the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" are inscribed, while the year of mintage, 1981, appears below. The reverse side of the coin features an eagle, the national symbol of the United States, perched on a branch, with the words "United States of America" and "quarter dollar" surrounding it. This design has become iconic, and it's a symbol of the pride and history of the nation. What makes the 1981 D. Washington quarter a coin worth watching? For one thing, it's all about the condition of the coin. As with many coins, the 1981 D was minted in large quantities, and like most modern coins, it was widely circulated. You might find these quarters in your pocket change, but here's the catch: many of them are in worn condition, which significantly reduces their value. However, if you happen to have one of these quarters in pristine condition, you could be in for a surprising discovery. A coin that has been kept in excellent condition, whether by being stored in a coin album or carefully handled, can command far higher prices. These uncirculated coins are rare, and collectors are always eager to get their hands on them. If your 1981 D quarter has no wear, scratches, or discoloration and has been carefully preserved, it could be worth much more than just 25 cents, but there's another reason why the 1981 D. Washington quarter could be valuable: mint errors. Minting errors occur when something goes wrong during the production process, leading to unique and rare characteristics that make the coin stand out. These errors can range from things like double strikes, die cracks, or even off-center strikes. When a coin has a mint error, it can become an even more desirable collector's item, as these coins are often one of a kind or produced in very limited quantities. If you've ever heard the term error coin, you'll know that they're highly prized among collectors, and a mint error on a 1981 D. Washington quarter could significantly increase its value. Now, let's talk about how much a 1981 D. Washington quarter could be worth if you have one of these pristine, error-free coins, or perhaps one with a rare minting flaw. While most 1981 D quarters are worth around their face value of 25 cents, a coin in perfect, uncirculated condition could sell for a significant amount more, especially if it's been graded highly by a reputable coin grading service. However, if you're lucky enough to have a 1981 D. Washington quarter with a minting error like a double strike or an off-center design, its value could soar even higher. Are you sitting on a small fortune? If you happen to have a 1981 D. Washington quarter in near-perfect condition, or better yet, one with a mint error, it could be worth up to $70,000. Yes, you read that right, $70,000 for a single quarter. That's an incredible value for something as simple as a coin, and it highlights just how much the world of coin collecting can surprise you. To wrap it up, the 1981 D. Washington quarter is more than just a piece of change, it's a piece of history. Whether it's the condition of the coin or a rare mint error that makes it valuable, this quarter has the potential to become a true collector's item. So, take a second look at any 1981 D. Washington quarters you may have. They might just be worth far more than you think. Now, we're talking about the 1991 D. Washington quarter dollar, Now, at first glance, this coin might look like just another piece of spare change you'd use for parking or drop in a vending machine. But if you're lucky enough to have the right version of this quarter, in the right condition, you might just be sitting on a small fortune without even knowing it. So, sit tight and stick around, because we're about to explore everything that makes this coin a hidden gem, from its history and design to rare minting quirks, and finally, we'll reveal just how much this simple piece of American currency could actually be worth today. Let's start with a bit of background. The Washington quarter has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1932, originally minted to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the years, the design has remained remarkably consistent, with only subtle changes, making it one of the most recognizable coins in American pockets. The coin we're talking about today, minted in 1991 at the Denver Mint, as marked by the small D under Washington's ponytail, came out during an era when coin collecting was starting to see a fresh wave of interest. This was a time before state quarters, before modern commemoratives. In short, most people weren't paying close attention, which makes surviving coins in pristine condition even more desirable. Now let's talk design. The obverse features the familiar profile of George Washington, with the words Liberty and In God We Trust flanking his iconic image. It's a classic piece of American symbolism, stoic, clean, and proud. Flip it over and you'll see an eagle with outstretched wings perched atop a bundle of arrows, surrounded by laurel branches. This reverse design is all about strength and unity, a true visual representation of American ideals. But what really sets the 1991 D. Washington quarter apart in the eyes of collectors isn't just the design. It's the rarity of finding one in near-perfect condition or with a minting error. Now, here's the thing. Millions of these quarters were minted. They were never considered rare, until now. Because after decades of circulation, very few of these coins have survived without heavy wear, scratches, or damage. Even fewer exist in what's known as MS or mint state condition. Coins that were never actually used and are essentially as fresh as the day they were made. These are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and anything above 65 is considered extremely high quality. A 1991 D quarter that's been sitting in someone's collection, untouched, sealed, protected, it could be worth way more than face value. Then, of course, we've got the possibility of rare minting errors. These are mistakes that occur during the production of the coin, maybe a misaligned die, a double strike, or a planchet error. These aren't just imperfections, they're collectible anomalies. They make your coins stand out in a world of mass-produced copies. Collectors love these rarities because they're one of a kind. They add a layer of uniqueness and intrigue, making the coin not only historically significant, but also personally exciting to own. And in auctions, these special versions of the 1991 D. Washington quarter have been known to attract serious attention and even more serious bids. But let's not forget the star of the show, value. This is the moment you've been waiting for. You might be wondering, how much could a 1991 D. Washington quarter really be worth? Could a quarter, worth just 25 cents on its face, actually change your life? Well, if you've got a 1991 D quarter in immaculate, uncirculated condition, or better yet, one with a rare minting error, it could be worth as much as $45,000. Yes, you heard that right. That little coin in your drawer, glove box, or coin jar could be worth enough to cover a new car, a down payment on a house, or even that dream vacation you've been putting off to. So, what are you waiting for? Go check your coin stash. Look closely at the date, look for that D mint mark, and most importantly, check the condition. You just might be holding onto something far more valuable than you ever imagined. Last unique coin, we're about to uncover the secret behind a very ordinary-looking coin that could be anything but ordinary, the 1995 P. Washington quarter dollar from the United States. Now, we all know quarters. They're everywhere. Parking meters, laundry machines, old soda vending slots. It's one of the most commonly used coins in America, and because of that, it's also one of the most overlooked. But what if I told you that a quarter sitting unnoticed in your drawer or purse could be hiding an incredible secret? What if, instead of 25 cents, it was actually worth thousands? Stick around, because we're going to dive into the story of the 1995 Washington quarter, the history, the design, what makes it special, and why collectors are going crazy for certain rare examples of this coin. Let's start with the basics. The 1995 P quarter was minted in Philadelphia, which is why you'll see the tiny P mint mark on the right side, just behind Washington's neck. That little letter might not seem like much, but it tells you exactly where your coin came from, and in the world of coin collecting, that detail matters more than you might think. Now, 1995 was an interesting time in the US. It was a transitional period. People were moving from analog to digital, from paper to plastic. Yet the quarter, that good old dependable coin, remained a daily part of life. Millions of these 1995 quarters were minted and thrown into circulation. And while most of them have long since been worn down, dinged up, and forgotten about, a few managed to slip through the cracks in perfect, untouched condition, and that brings us to why this coin matters. You see, coin collectors aren't just looking for old coins. They're looking for coins that are rare, in excellent shape, and sometimes coins with mistakes. Yes, you heard that right. A mistake on a coin can actually make it more valuable. In fact, many of the most expensive coins ever sold were valuable because of their imperfections. The 1995 Washington quarter is no exception. Some versions of this coin come with unique minting errors, off-center strikes, double dies, or weak impressions caused by worn-out dies at the mint. These errors are incredibly rare, and when found on a coin that's already in mint or uncirculated condition, they can skyrocket its value. Now, let's talk design. On the front, you've got George Washington, the very first president of the United States, facing left, his image strong and dignified, surrounded by the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and, of course, the year 1995. Flip it over, and you'll see the iconic eagle, wings spread wide, perched proudly on a bundle of arrows, flanked by olive branches. It's a bold, classic image of American power and peace, a reminder of the country's enduring spirit. But here's what's fascinating. Because these coins were so common, many people assume they have no value beyond 25 cents. But that's exactly what makes this story so amazing. Imagine how many 1995 quarters passed through your hands over the years on the way to school, into arcade machines, or while grabbing a coffee. And now imagine that one of them could be worth a small fortune. Condition is everything. A heavily circulated 1995 P quarter might only be worth its face value. But if you've got one in mint condition, bright, untouched, unscathed by time, or one with a rare error, then you're in a whole different league. Collectors, dealers, and investors alike are always hunting for these gems. They're looking for coins that have survived the passage of time in pristine form, coins that tell a story not just through their design, but through their rarity and condition. It's not just money, it's history in your hand. So, if you've got a stash of old change or maybe a coin collection that's been sitting in a box for years, now is the time to go take a look. Pull out your magnifying glass. Look for the date 1995. Look for the P mint mark. And most of all, look at the condition. Because if the stars align and your coin meets all the right criteria, that humble little quarter could be worth as much as $45,000. Yes, that's the true magic of coin collecting. You never know when a forgotten coin in your pocket could turn out to be a hidden treasure. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of rare and valuable coins. And don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss a chance to uncover the next big find. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting and happy hunting!